Hi everyone, Kelt here, bringing you my thoughts on the Tom BOWER book Revenge. I'm only halfway through at the moment, but my thoughts so far are that after a slight initial disappointment, because he seemed to be not giving all the information that we've known, especially regarding her college days, but maybe that will come out in the second book. Remember that she was alleged to have hazed another student by gluing her eyelids together. But as I said, perhaps in another book, a second one will follow this maybe. Many have been disappointed that Tom did not let rip with some real damning information, but so far it really is, as someone said, death by 1,000 cuts. Tom is a brilliant biographer, and he has cleverly managed to use the right words so as to let us know what he's thinking, but not exactly saying. When he referred to the royals who were looking at a shawl, instead of saying Archie, he's basically implying everything there. He didn't hold back when talking about Doria in the first part of the book. She was well and truly portrayed as a grifting, ganja-smoking, deadbeat mother, although he didn't say that. He refers to the mysterious gap in time where Meghan's mother appears to have mysteriously disappeared out of everyone's life. Yes, Tom chooses his words very carefully, so we're not going to hear anything too dramatic, but it is the best book that I've read about this subject so far. A lot of what he talked about was stuff that we already knew and has been in some of my old videos, but I think maybe he's included some actual quotes that we haven't heard before from her friends and Harry's friends and acquaintances, and there are some details in some of the stories that we knew before, but we did not know all of the details. Very interesting that her previous husband, Trevor Engelson, was given the same sob story about her family because he said that he was providing her with the family that she never had, just like Harry had said. In fact, he wrote quite a bit about Trevor Engelson and their relationship, and quite an eye-opener for me, as a lot of details which I didn't know. He really had the same sort of treatment as Harry, and Meghan ended it when he was of no more use, because he wasn't a prince with a title, I guess. She might have hung on longer with him if he had, maybe. Meghan was given everything she wanted. She had a very loving family on both sides, and the photographs that we see on the internet paint a picture of someone who was at the heart of a very loving family. It was great to read the confirmation of Meghan's conniving and manipulating to meet the people that she was desperate to meet while climbing up that ladder to royalty, her ultimate goal. He showed a person who was ruthless, and while she seemed to be quite nice and empathic, even in her earlier adult life, it seems she quickly changed when she moved to Toronto and did the Suits episodes. Her father blames it on the Soho House crowd. It was even blamed on Harry for the change in her attitude. It was also good to read that we were right regarding her not living in Nottingham Cottage in those early years. The reason we knew this, it was because Meghan's shoes had mud on the heels. Although Tom didn't refer to this, this is something that I talked about in a previous video. It was obvious then that she was not walking out from Nottingham Cottage, but from somewhere just like Soho Farmhouse, where she actually was. Back at the time, I made a video discussing where she was and that her shoes gave it away. She also arrived separately from Harry a lot of times back then, and although Tom BOWER never mentioned it, it seemed as if they were living separately and were arriving separately. Harry from Nottingham Cottage and Meghan from Soho Farmhouse. Tom has meticulously researched the years up until the royal wedding. I was so impressed with this. He talked about Meghan when she chose the tiara, and she was not allowed to have it because of the Russian connection. In my previous video, I said that it was the Russian Vladimir tiara, which could be interchangeable with pearls. This was the one that Meghan wanted, not the one that Eugenie had for her wedding, although it might have been Meghan's second choice, perhaps, because we know that she loves green and she definitely wanted emeralds. But it was the Vladimir one which she saw and wanted. I also thought that it was the one that looked very regal and would make her look like a queen. It was very interesting for me to hear also the timeline of events regarding Thomas Markle and his conversations with Harry and Meghan leading up to the time where he had the last conversation with Meghan, where it was obvious that she did not believe that he had had a heart attack, and she wanted him to come to London. I would go so far to say that maybe she didn't know, and she knew he couldn't come, which is why she tried to pressure him to come and got upset. She wanted to show herself as a caring daughter who wanted her father to walk down the aisle, when actually she wanted the opposite. She didn't want him there to embarrass her and was ready to cut off all her family bar the one who was useful to her at the time, which was her mother. Just my thoughts. He talked about Meghan being fast-tracked into the family, i.e. the firm, but didn't suggest the real reason why, which many of us believe, is that she might have led Harry to believe that she was already with child, so to speak, but not a hint of that from Tom BOWER. He praises Meghan a little bit too much for some readers and sort of gives the impression that she was exuding style in her choice of clothing, when many would say the opposite. I think she got it right sometimes, but I think a lot of the time she invited a lot of criticism. He refers to Thomas not understanding why Doria needed to be away for weeks at a time. There are many more subtle references to Doria's lack of parenting and bohemian and grifting lifestyle. The author does not out and out say that Meghan is a liar, but he points out various stories throughout her life where her account was very different from the accounts of others, one of them being the Los Angeles riots in 1991, and another was the account of Meghan's first world-changing humanitarian project regarding a dish soap advert, when there is a completely different story showing that her father allowed her to keep this to help her feel special. He cleverly points out Meghan's contrary statements and cognitive dissonance. He shows how Meghan changed her stories to suit the narrative at the time, whichever was the most benefit to her, but he does it in a way that he's just giving two accounts. He's not accusing Meghan of lying, he's just giving her account and other people's accounts. What are some interesting things that he revealed that I had not heard before, so it's not all old stuff. There are quite a few stories that he brings up with details that I have not heard before. He does mention Meghan's intense jealousy, how she was very jealous if someone else got a lead part in a school play. Even at that age, she needed to be the star. One interesting thing also is that Meghan was never interested in casual dating. Interestingly, Meghan never blamed racism in those days for rejection at auditions, and that seems to be a newer thing. The impression so far is that there is not one huge damning piece of evidence against her, but rather, as I said, death by 1,000 cuts. The one very clever thing he has done is quoting quite a bit from Finding Freedom, which, whilst a little more annoying to read, because we've already read it, many of us, it's quite cunning, because it means that she cannot contest anything in Finding Freedom. So it's well worth buying the book. Regarding Meghan's initial start with her new royal life, friends thought that her smile was forced. She never did a good job of hiding that, and I think most of us could see that very early on. He talks about Thomas and Meghan, with psychologists identifying narcissistic traits in Meghan. However, Tom cleverly does not use the word narcissist. He just mentions the traits of narcissism, the effects of it, by mentioning Meghan's traits of idealise, devalue, discard, etc., so the reader can make the hat fit. Thomas leaves out words which obviously to avoid being sued, but there have been psychologists who have labelled Meghan a narcissist and more online. I like the way he chooses his words carefully. It is, in my opinion, an absolute overload of small pieces of information to do with her adult life, which don't seem to be particularly damning or dramatic, but bit by bit they do make her appear to be a manipulating person. It's been said that he has loads more information which he cannot use as yet. So if Meghan tried to sue him, which I personally don't think will happen, he has a load more ammunition, it seems, which could be brought up and would be brought up in court. Thomas Markle talks about how Jeff Rayner basically did the dirty on him. He refers to Meghan being compared to Catherine regarding clothes expenditure, and this is another thing that we knew because it was splashed all over the papers and it was obvious that Meghan was trying to outdo Catherine, but she still did not look as good as Catherine in many of her outfits. There is a lot of toing and froing in the book, the airing of dirty laundry between Meghan and her father, mostly about money. And it also seems that Trevor's parents were unhappy that their son was not marrying someone Jewish. So there was no good relationship there, even from the start with her new in-laws. One incident where Meghan demanded the official video of the party only to destroy it shows to me that she didn't live her life authentically. There were always motives, and she was always planning for the future, for a better future with a better husband. She did not want an official record of the marriage. How interesting is that when you're supposed to love someone? That's amazing. So poor Trevor was just filling in for the time being. He talked about Meghan's race issues and the drama that she created around it when it suited her, and other times when it wasn't even mentioned because it had no relevance, because her friends in school and college thought that she was part Italian. He touches on the subject of Marcus Anderson, and I was hoping that there would be some real interesting information on him, but nothing more than we know already. His description of Omid Scobie is quite tactful. He talked of how Omid's facial features had changed and also queried his age. A lot of the information about the ending of the marriage and the way Meghan did it and her friend's reaction, especially Priti, her childhood friend, is what we already know, but at least it's all in one book. It's becoming obvious that it's a lawyer writing the book, and I think that they write the best books, in my opinion. Until now, I've always thought that Trevor Engelson never spoke about anything negative about Meghan, apart from saying that he felt like something stuck on the bottom of her shoe due to the way she dumped him. The book also describes how Trevor told a friend that his life with Meghan was not the same as the image that she portrayed to the public. From Tom's description of Meghan's character Rachel, I get the impression, and I think he's just showing us, that Meghan was absolutely in love with Rachel Zane, and this person was everything Meghan wanted to be. He describes her coping with being recognised as a celebrity, and this friend of hers basically implies that Meghan was always seeking fame and a new relationship, and this was described by Tom BOWER in a really clever way. He gives a lot of information about Meghan's manhunt when she decided to go to Europe. He is so precise and thorough in his investigations into Meghan's life, and he goes into great detail. He talks about Meghan's love of good food and her cooking and how her cooking skills were limited. And he goes into a little detail about what she could make, which was very limited. He refers to the roast chicken and the other few things that she could make, and mostly bought and ready-made. He also mentioned how she had an idea about fronting a TV programme to tour the world tasting food, and this didn't happen. It never came to fruition. So, again, read the book. It's brilliant the way he words this. And it is, in my opinion, another cut from his pen. I love the way that Tom takes an insult and turns it into a compliment for Meghan. When she plagiarised people, he referred to it as being her skill to build up her credibility, and she wanted to be associated with stars with a photograph to prove that she was friends with them. How she basically pushed her way through life and refusing to take no for an answer. So Meghan made it sound as if she had a friendship with Serena Williams, and Tom points out that there was no photo of Meghan with Serena on the TIG. He slates her comments about life and food, which she posted on her website, and he implied that they were dishonest. He mentions Meghan's relationship with Corey and how he was not mentioned or featured on the TIG, and also implying that he was another one to face the chop. I mentioned how not only did Meghan not want anything to do with her wedding to Trevor made public, she also didn't want anything about Corey Vitiello mentioned in her TIG. Meghan made it very public about Rory McIlroy and sang his praises about him being an amazing golfer who was loved by Tiger Woods. And Meghan was absolutely thrilled that he dumped a bucket of ice water on her head during the Ice Bucket Challenge. When she was asked by Corey if she was having a relationship with McIlroy, and let's face it, he would think that because he wasn't mentioned in the TIG, but McIlroy was. However, he believed her. Gina Nelthorpe-Cowan was also taken in by Meghan. Friends had said that Meghan had had dinner with Rory McIlroy, and that the way she was looking at him showed that it was more than just a dinner date. It was hinted at. So it gives the impression that she was possibly being unfaithful to Corey. She still denied an affair, despite a newspaper report, and Tom BOWER's choice of words in this makes it sound as if Meghan was just playing with McIlroy. He had a way of saying that Corey had more use to her than McIlroy. I liked it when Tom relayed what Meghan had said to Gina Nelthorpe-Cowan, but he added one word, and again, another of the 1,000 cuts. Meghan had basically said that she had wanted to represent L'Oreal, and the way Tom says this shows that he, in my mind, thinks it's a bit of a joke that she thought that she had a chance with them. As we know, Meghan has always said that she has legs as long as a mile, but Tom has a way of quoting this in a way that reveals the true personality to us, just by one word. Again, read the book. I'm not quoting it here. He refers again to Meghan being really envious and how it seemed to cover most of her life. Tom also refers to the importance to Meghan of physical and sexual attraction and how her website was becoming more about that and how Meghan was losing patience with people that didn't agree with her. So he makes it quite clear that Meghan's image was very important to her and how obvious it was on her website. And as we know, she does trawl the internet to read about herself, and Tom also mentions this and how it did bother her if she was criticised. Yet we know that she says she didn't read any press. So Tom points out a lot of discrepancies in what Meghan says and how she contradicts herself throughout the book and shows herself to be a liar without anyone having to prove anything. It's like Tom BOWER is not accusing Meghan of anything, but rather holding a mirror to her and quoting her conflicting statements. One big attraction for Meghan was the New York hotelier because of his relationship with the Clintons. Tom gives details about Meghan's meetings and rubbing shoulders with celebrities and the stories behind how she achieved this, which shows that she was pretty determined to become famous. He talked about her being introduced to 2 advertising executives, and again, it was always about her need to be in control of everything. And he points out her self-importance, but doesn't use the words delusions of grandeur. Again, you'll have to read the book. Delusions of grandeur is the most common expression used, and delusion is an internal fixed belief, but illusion is an external distortion of the senses. So again, read the book and you'll see how he describes this. Very clever man. So thanks for watching this so far, and I'll come up with another one soon. Bye. Please subscribe. Ding my bell for more alerts for more videos. Like if you liked it and share. Bye.